Most brands think packaging design is just a box. Luxury brands know it's a strategy because when you look at Louis Vuitton packaging, nothing is accidental. Not the color, not the texture, not the reveal moment. It's all engineered to make the product feel more valuable before you even touch it. And today, we're breaking down luxury packaging design, specifically Louis Vuitton, so you can understand why it works and how these details quietly influence perception, pricing, and desire. This isn't about copying luxury brands. It's about understanding the psychology they're using so you can apply it intentionally in your own brand. By the end of this episode, you'll see packaging design completely differently, and you'll know exactly which luxury principles actually matter and which ones are just aesthetic fluff. If you're serious about elevating your packaging design, hit that like button and we'll get started. This is Super Bloom Coach, the podcast for ambitious women ready to 10x their business and their life. I'm your host, Mariah Riona, award-winning luxury brand designer and certified life coach. And every week, I'll be here as your Super Bloom coach, helping you ditch the limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck, small, and broke. We'll dive deep into the mindset, marketing, and strategy that actually moves the needle. Plus, have candid conversations with powerhouse women entrepreneurs who are blooming big in their own businesses. If you're ready to grow, you're in the right place. Let's clear this up. Packaging is never just packaging. One of the biggest misconceptions I see, especially with smaller or newer brands, is the idea that packaging is optional, like it's something you upgrade later, once you're bigger, once you're more established, once you're making enough money to justify it. But luxury brands don't think that way. They understand that packaging is the first value signal before the product is used, before results are delivered, before trust is earned. Luxury packaging design isn't about the container. It's about the perception it creates before anything else happens. And perception is what pricing is built on. Luxury packaging design is about perception, not price tags. Here's something that might surprise you. Luxury packaging design is rarely about the most expensive materials. It's about intentional ones. When I'm evaluating packaging, whether it's physical or conceptual, I'm not asking how much did this cost? I'm asking, does this feel considered? Does it feel restrained? Does this feel like it knows exactly who it's for? Luxury branding lives in restraint, in sequencing, in decisions that feel quiet but confident. That's why two products can cost the same to produce, yet one commands a dramatically higher price. Perception did the work first. What Louis Vuitton understands about luxury packaging design. Let's talk about Louis Vuitton for a moment because their packaging is a masterclass in luxury packaging design. Nothing is accidental, not the color palette, not the texture, not the weight of the box, not the reveal. Even the way the box opens is engineered to slow you down. That pause, the moment before you even see the product, is intentional. When I assess luxury brands, this is one of the first things I look at. Does the packaging rush you or does it pace you? Louis Vuitton never rushes, and that pacing tells your subconscious this is valuable. Why iconic luxury brands don't scream for attention. This is where a lot of brands go wrong, even when they think they're doing luxury correctly. They lean into tropes. Diamonds, champagne imagery, gold everywhere, sparkle, gloss, visual noise. It's all very loud. But real luxury doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, and it doesn't over-decorate. True luxury assumes discernment. When I'm reviewing a brand and I see too many luxury signals stacked on top of each other, it tells me the brand is trying to convince instead of command. Subtlety is confidence. The quiet power of restraint in luxury branding. Luxury brands don't explain themselves. They don't justify their pricing. They don't over-educate. They don't over-deliver visually. They trust the buyer to understand. And that trust is felt. And when I'm evaluating whether a brand can actually support higher pricing, restraint is one of the biggest indicators I look for. Luxury packaging design works best when it leaves space. Space for anticipation, space for interpretation, space for desire. My early mistake and why DIY cost me more than hiring experts. I want to share something personal here. When I started my very first business, wedding photography, I DIY'd everything. Branding, presentation, packaging, all of it. And it showed. The work itself was strong, but the presentation didn't match, and that disconnect cost me more than money. It cost me perceived value. That experience is what eventually led me back to school for graphic design, into this industry, and ultimately to building my own agency. And here's the irony. Now, in my own business, I outsource everything I'm not an expert in because I have seen firsthand how trying to save money in areas you're not trained in ends up costing you far more. Lost time, lost clients, lost trust, and lost revenue. Before we go any further, I need to let you in on something. If you're loving this episode, you have to check out Superbloom Coach Society because this podcast, it's just the beginning. SCS is the coaching community built for listeners of this show. It's where we take everything you're learning here and go 10 times deeper with live coaching from me, monthly trainings, and the exact mindset and marketing tools to help you scale. Inside, you'll finally have a blueprint, a clear, strategic path to grow your business with intention instead of chasing every trend or second-guessing your next move. Each month, we focus on one powerful topic, from offers and visibility to money mindset and client attraction, so you can build real momentum and see results that last. And you won't be doing it alone. You'll be surrounded by a community of driven, like-minded women who are all building businesses that align with their highest vision. Head to mariahriona.com/society. Why you can't DIY luxury and why trying backfires. This is the belief most people need to release. You can't DIY luxury. It's an oxymoron. Luxury packaging design is a discipline, a language, a psychological system. When I assess brands that feel almost luxury, but not quite luxury, DIY is almost always part of the problem. Not because the brand owner isn't talented, but because luxury requires objectivity. You can't see your own blind spots clearly enough to engineer perception at that level. Packaging isn't just physical, it's conceptual too. This is where a lot of digital brands miss the opportunity. Packaging isn't just boxes and tissue paper. It's how your offer is named. It's how it's presented. It's how it's revealed. When I evaluate digital products or services, I look at how the offer is introduced, how the value is sequenced, how the experience unfolds. The psychology is the same. Luxury packaging design applies whether someone is opening a box or joining your online program. How repositioning my own services changed everything. When I redesigned and repackaged my own services through a luxury lens, everything shifted. Not because I worked harder, not because I added more deliverables, but because the presentation finally matched the value. By intentionally packaging my services as luxury, visually, verbally, experientially, I was able to 10x my pricing. That wasn't magic, that was alignment. And this is something I see again and again when I'm reviewing client brands. Luxury packaging design is a pricing decision, not a design one. This is the reframe I want you to sit with. Pricing doesn't start on a sales page, it starts with perception. Luxury packaging design quietly pre-sells the price before it's ever revealed. When packaging and presentation are intentional, the price feels expected. When they're not, the price feels confrontational. That's not a marketing problem, that's a positioning problem. What I look for first when evaluating a brand's packaging. When a new client comes to me, the first thing I evaluate isn't aesthetics, it's alignment. Does the packaging reflect the actual quality of the product? Does it support the price point or does it undermine it? Does it feel intentional or improvised? Most brands don't need prettier packaging. They need clarity on what their brand is actually signaling. The belief that keeps brands stuck at mid-tier pricing. Here's the belief that has to go if luxury packaging design is ever going to click, that you can save your way into luxury. You can't. Luxury is built through intention, not shortcuts. Through investment, not improvisation, and through strategy, not decoration. Once you release that belief, everything changes. And if as you're listening, you're realizing you don't actually know what your packaging is signaling or whether your brand is quietly elevating or unintentionally undermining your perceived value, I offer a luxury brand audit. It's a deep evaluation of your current branding, packaging, and positioning so you can see exactly where value is being created and where it's being lost. Book your luxury brand audit now by clicking the link in the description below. If you are done guessing and ready to grow your business to 6 figures, check out Super Bloom Coach Society. You'll be coached by me inside a focused community of women entrepreneurs committed to clarity, consistency, and real momentum. Go to mariahriona.com/society or click the link in the description below. I can't wait to coach you inside.